Saints are world champs.
One more to go.
Join Jessica and Jocelyn on ABC 26 and get the latest news live from Miami and what's happening here at home. It's Mission Miami, every night at 6 on ABC 26.
It's our connection to our community.
It's time to believe.
The following is an ABC 26 sports special, Mission Miami.
And welcome to our ABC 26 sports special, Mission Miami. I'm Jessica Holly.
And I'm Jocelyn Lockwood. It's music to New Orleanians' ears. The Saints are going to the Super Bowl.
Finally, and we have your first class ticket to Miami. Let's head straight to ABC 26 sports director Ed Daniels with the latest on the Super Bowl bound boys in black and gold. Hello there, Ed.
Hello, ladies. What did we learn here on the first day of Super Bowl week in Miami? Well, there is no place like home. We always knew that logistically, and for many other reasons, New Orleans was the best of the Super Bowl cities. And today we learned that again because sometime shortly after noon, we learned that the Saints would have to leave Coral Gables and bus to a place much further north to practice. And for the NFC champions, that was no big deal.
Wet, soggy, and just not stopping. That's been
2 hours after he was supposed to meet with the media, head coach Sean Payton finally did. Rain forced the Saints to dress at their locker room at the University of Miami in Coral Gables, then bus to Dolphins camp in Davie. Anyone who knows South Florida traffic knows that is not a brief journey.
We went to the hotel, checked in, and then we went to practice, and it was raining, so we had to drive all the way out here. It wasn't a big deal. I don't think anybody has anything else to do. So, you know, it is what it is.
First-time organizations have struggled in the Super Bowl, winning only 4 of 19 games against repeat clubs. Reggie Bush was asked about that fact.
No, I wasn't aware of that. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. You know, it is what it is.
It is what it is, and that includes Media Day tomorrow that has been moved inside at the Super Bowl stadium here in Miami because of the inclement weather. However, we are told that after tomorrow, the weather for the rest of the week is expected to be good. Joss?
All right, Ed, and if it makes you feel any better, it's been raining off and on here as well, so you're not alone.
We think they went down there hoping for a little mini vacation in the sunshine, but that's not the case.
Hopefully it will clear up.
Yes. Well, the Saints have officially made it to Miami.
And the flight from the Crescent City to MIA made it around lunchtime.
That's right. ABC 26 News reporter Sheldon Fox has the latest from Miami.
wet, soggy, and just not stopping. That's been the weather pattern here all day long, but the downpours haven't been enough to stop the Saints from getting their first touchdown in Miami. Nobody comes to South Florida wanting to experience weather like this. It's the yucky side of a tropical climate, and it's been soggy here all day, except for around lunchtime. A brief break from the rain came as the Saints came flying in. Their fleur-de-lis flag waved over the tarmac by their giddy pilot. Yup, around high noon today, the Whodats officially invaded the MIA. And they came out dressed to impress. No pads, eye black, or tattoos were on display from guys like the usually rugged Jeremy Shockey, who's now back where he played his college ball, this time in search of a Super Bowl ring. And even those guys who were being videotaped and photographed seemed just as eager to document their own arrival. Owner Tom Benson looked in good spirits, but saved his dance moves for Sunday night. But before that, they need to win, and be bussed around from venue to venue, and be followed by a police escort, and managed to do it despite all the distractions that come with Super Bowl hype and hysteria. As their bus fleet made it out of Miami International Airport, they had to know even more madness was in store. And so after the Saints made their landing, one member of the media looked over at us and said, somebody must have known the Saints were in the air because it conveniently stopped raining just before their landing. A few hours later, the Colts landed at Fort Lauderdale International, and the same couldn't be said for them. It was wet. I wonder what that means. Sheldon Fox, ABC 26 News.
All right, thanks, Sheldon. And there may be more players in Miami than fans right now.
Yeah, we don't expect the big crush of Hootats until later on this week. Kurt Sprang, though, is live in Davie, right outside of Miami, with the very latest. Kurt?
Jessica and Jesse, any out of the Saints, as the weather, as you've heard from everybody here, has just been miserable. In fact, it's a good thing. Good. Let me tell you that while we're waiting,
You can find Super Bowl merchandise for sale all over the Miami area. Saints fans in Miami are loading up and getting fired up for Sunday's game.
Little football souvenir for nephew, you know, and then the Pro Bowl, which trying to get some autographs here, so hopefully it's going to be a fun game. I could tell you that. I mean, high scoring, hopefully, but hopefully the Saints will pull it out.
Some buyers say the souvenirs of the big game are an easy way to avoid a pricier Super Bowl gift.
Let's see, a shirt and a hat, I could buy him the best shirt in the place, which would be $80. All right, so and I could buy a seat for $1,000 maybe.
This afternoon, security at the Intercontinental Hotel in Miami followed Saints orders and kept reporters away. When the team arrived, the Saints, who were already in town for the Pro Bowl, dressed in bellhop uniforms, a joke for the arriving guys. Lifelong Saints fans say watching the team go to the Super Bowl was worth the wait.
I was at the 67 game. We had end zone seats. John Gilliam took the ball on the 6-yard line and ran past all the St. Louis LA Rams. And ran past all the Rams all the way to the other end zone, and we all thought we were going to the Super Bowl, and we were God's gift. And okay, so it took us 43 years to get here.
Now, the Super Bowl is expected to pump about $400 million into Miami's economy. The feds and the city here are spending a big chunk of that money on security, but this is a very wealthy community for sure. There are a lot of yachts when you drive around on the canals here and on the bays in the Miami area. In fact, one New Orleanian said to me today, because we are waiting for so many fans to get here, we know they're coming, but we're still waiting on them. And one fan said to me today that there appear to be more yachts than yats in the Miami area. Back to you guys.
Just for now.
That's true.
There will be
just for now.
That's right. All right. Thanks a lot, Kurt. Kurt Sprang reporting live from Davie, just outside of Miami, and we'll be right back with more Mission Miami.
From all of us at Keys Auto, beat Indianapolis and Miami and bring home the championship. Who dat? Who dat? Who dat say go beat them Saints? Go Saints!
You're watching it. This is an ABC 26 Sports Special, Mission Miami.
And welcome back to our ABC 26 Sports Special, Mission Miami. And you know, if anyone knows how to throw a great party, it's New Orleans.
Yeah, when there's a parade, people come, and if yesterday is any indicator of the enormity of Saints fever, a post-Super Bowl parade will be nothing less than, well, super. ABC 26 reporter Sandra Gonzalez is live for us at the Superdome with more.
Jessica and Jocelyn, we were amazed at the droves of people who turned out here yesterday at the Dome for the beginning of the Buddy D Parade. It was truly a sea of people, and with Super Bowl only 6 days away, there's still another parade coming. All these people came to see a bet fulfilled. The late broadcaster Buddy DiLiberto, aka Buddy D, said he'd wear a dress and dance in the streets if the Saints went to the Super Bowl. Though he didn't live to see the day, Saints fans proudly and unabashedly carried it out for him.
It was overwhelming to see people's enthusiasm and just the joy that they were experiencing, excitement.
Look at these calves.
Leading the charge for Buddy D was radio talk show host and former quarterback Bobby Hebert.
You can't explain it. Now, I played in Michigan, California, Georgia. It ain't nothing about playing for the New Orleans Saints because it's a lifestyle. It's a way of life, and you can't beat that.
A truck carrying him and his friends tried to make it to the French Quarter, but it was hard to plow through the crowds. Eventually, he made it in his dress and with his gigantic entourage to Oceana Grill to do his radio show. The restaurant was beyond amazed, but had enough crawfish and spirits to fill the crowds.
I knew that there would be a parade route and people would be standing on the parade route, but I didn't think that they were going to follow the parade to 739 Conti.
Now, if that Buddy D parade was any sign of the size of the Saints' spirit, next Tuesday's parade after the Super Bowl is expected to be grander than any parade that made its way through New Orleans.
It's going to be pure bedlam.
Blaine Kern Sr. says crews are teaming up to make it a Super Saints parade, win or lose.
I'm going to put a scar on him here.
Kern says there will be some super surprises.
Brees is going to be on in the Bacchus parade. All I'm going to tell you, it's not the normal King's float. It's something special we did.
And Bobby Lewis, who likes to capture these events on his camera, expects he'll capture an enormous historic moment again through his lens.
It's going to be a big event, big event. And if the Saints win, which I'm rooting for them all the way, this will be a festivity city.
A completely different spirit described as one of unification to lift the spirits of the people of the Crescent City. Now this Saints post-Super Bowl parade is only 8 days away. Blaine Kern says this parade is being closely coordinated with the police and emergency responders for the incredible crowds expected. Jocelyn and Jessica?
It's going to be a big party. Thanks a lot, Sandra.
It is. Well, we'll be right back.
ABC 26 is an ABC 26 sports special. Mission Miami.
4 decades ago, a New Orleans Saints kicker booted himself right into the record books.
Yeah, it was a remarkable feat, as Michael Hill shows us in tonight's Moments in Saints History.
A moment and a record that still rank among the best in the National Football League and in Saints history. Tom Dempsey had already kicked 3 field goals against the Detroit Lions on November 8, 1970 at Tulane Stadium. Dempsey was born with half a right foot. In childhood, he was fitted with a wooden foot. That foot, wearing a modified football shoe, was called on with the game on the line. 2 seconds left, Detroit up by a point. Dempsey took the field, kicking into the closed-in horseshoe of the stadium, not knowing where the wind would steer the ball. But Dempsey would later say he got a perfect snap, a perfect hold, and a lot of protection. His kick sailed 63 yards and barely across the crossbar, winning the game and setting the record for the longest field goal in the history of the National Football League.
All right, thanks, Michael. And the Dempsey record field goal was tied by Denver Broncos kicker Jason Elam in October of 1998.
And I remember that well when Jason Elam tied that. It was a big day.
Big
there.
kick.
Well, tickets for the Saints-Colts matchup in Super Bowl 44 are in high demand.
Yes, so much so that StubHub reports that Super Bowl tickets are now number 2 on StubHub's all-time list, trailing behind Game 6 of the World Series. Right now, fans are paying an average price of more than $2,600 for tickets to Sunday's big game. At this time last year, fans were paying an average of more than $2,500 for Super Bowl 43 tickets for the Steelers and Cardinals matchup. StubHub also reports that 26% of buyers for this Sunday's game are from Louisiana, followed by 7% from Indiana. So we're ahead in that respect.
Yeah, interesting when you break it down. I'm sure a lot of Saints fans, though, I know don't have tickets but are still going to Miami.
Right, and a lot of Saints fans don't necessarily live in Louisiana.
That's true, too.
A lot more Saints fans. All right, we're going to go to break right now with a shot from live from Miami, where it's been a rainy day today. We'll be right back.
From all of us at All Northeast Associates, bring the wood, finish strong, go Saints. Who dat?
Who dat? Who dat say we're gonna beat them Saints? Who dat? Who dat? Who dat say we're gonna beat them Saints?
You're watching an ABC 26 Sports Special, Mission Miami. This is an ABC 26 Sports Special, Mission Miami.
And welcome back to our ABC 26 Sports Special, Mission Miami.
Even though it's raining cats and dogs in Miami, it hasn't put a damper on some Saints fans' fun.
Let's head straight to Chief Meteorologist Bruce Katz with more on what Saints fans can expect in the Sunshine State this week. Bruce?
Well, not only there, but here, girls, it looks like, again, the rain continues to fall, so kind of the same type weather, but certainly Miami today had the worst of it with heavy rains up to about 1.5 inches from Miami up toward Davie, where they practiced, to Fort Lauderdale as well. Now, let's take a look at the actual radar in motion. This is actually live coming in. Notice Davie to Fort Lauderdale. They did have the rain moving in from Miami, and from Miami to Davie, where the Dolphins practice, it's only about a 23 to 24 mile drive, like you would drive the Causeway. So not that big of a deal, as of course the Saints had to move their practice from the University of Miami today all the way up to Davie because of the rain. Now here's your Super Sunday forecast. I'll back out and walk back to the desk. It looks like Friday, a 30% chance of rain, 20% Saturday, and look at Super Bowl Sunday. Spectacular weather. It's going to be lots of sun, 73 and 52. So it looks like at this point, the rain should be ending tomorrow. Then we'll get a little brief rain on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but then Sunday looks A-OK.
And that's the type of weather we need for a win.
Yep. And for tailgating. So many people are planning big parties. So
even here in New Orleans, the weather's going to be
absolutely
good too.
Great.
Yep.
All right.
Very
Thanks a lot,
good.
Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce. Well, would you like a piece of Saints history?
I would. Well, now you'll have a chance to win. Of course, we're not eligible, but this is a signed Marcus Cole.
You're watching an ABC. This is an ABC 26 Sports Special, Mission Miami.
Welcome back to Mission Miami. We want to pause for a second and talk about this really cool card that we both have, and already nearly 1,000 of your friends have downloaded this Who Dat card.
It's a really neat card. It has Who Dat station card on it, name, a place for your name and address, and it also has www.abc26.com/Saints, the place to go for all the information you need on Mission Miami and the Saints.
We've got him. Well, we'll leave you with the sights and sounds of this incredible Saints season.
And we're going to leave you with the ABC 26 Saints official song, I Believe, Go Saints All the Way by Angela Bell. Thanks for watching. We'll see you right back here on ABC 26 News tomorrow from 6 to 6:30. Go Saints.
It's a second line that stretches 862 miles. Today, the Saints left for the Big Easy and arrived for the
We're live from Bayfront Park in downtown Miami, just across the way from the Saints team hotel. They arrived here around 12:30 today, officially kicking off their Super Bowl week. But as we know all too well here at Channel 4, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry, and that was the case with the Saints today. This afternoon, they were scheduled to practice just down the block, perhaps, over at the University of Miami, the U. But the U, of all places, doesn't have an indoor practice facilities. All those NFL players, and none of them have given back enough money to go indoors on a rainy day like you so often get here in Miami. So the Saints had to change their plans, and they went to the Dolphins practice facility in Davie, Florida. That's where we join Juan Kincaid live with the news of the day. And I'm hoping, Juan, that you're a lot more drier than we are here.
Not really, Scott. I'm not up under an umbrella. You guys are nicely protected from the elements typical of the Anchors. But yeah, out here with the Saints today, they moved to the Miami Dolphins facility because the U doesn't have an indoor practice facility. And oh, by the way, this is also the Colts home base. Speaking of the Colts, the big news out here today, the status of Dwight Freeney. We know about this guy. He's got the injured ankle, but how about some stats on his importance? 13.5 sacks this year, over 10 sacks for the past 6 of the 8 past years. So this is a guy that's very important to this football team. Very understandable why the Saints feel like it's a good thing that he may not play in the Super Bowl. It's not set in stone, but the mere thought of Colts defensive end Dwight Freeney not playing changes plenty for the Saints.
Obviously, Dwight Freeney is a great player, and obviously we would love for him not to play in the game. But you know, I said earlier that we're going to prepare as if he is playing in the game.
Freeney's questionable for Super Bowl Sunday after severely spraining his ankle in the AFC Championship game against the Jets. It's just an understanding his importance to the Colts defense. His presence along the front four allows Indy to sit back and play catch on the back end.
He is a tremendous player and one of the best, if not the best, pass rusher in this league, as is the guy on the other side, you know, Mathis.
But with an injured ankle likely playing speed bump for the Saints, the thought of protecting Brees' backside could get easier.
Definitely. I mean, he has great ability out there off the edge, and, you know, he is one of the best pass rushers in the league. We're going to still prepare as if he's playing in the game. We're going to continue to chip block. We're going to continue to do whatever we can, you know, to give Drew time and to keep the pressure off of him.
Now, you're talking about a guy in Dwight Freeney that everyone says around here that he is a very quick healer. He's employing everything that he can. He's been down here since the beginning of this week, talking about getting into that hyperbaric chamber, doing whatever it takes to get on the football field. And Jim and Scott, just like Jeremy Shockey, you know that he's going to do whatever it takes to play in this football game.
Well, and left tackle Jamon Bushrod has kind of been on that island all season long. I think DeMarcus Ware really exposed him, maybe opened up some different things that he could be susceptible to. But boy, against Jared Allen in the NFC Championship game, with a little help, Jamon Bushrod kept Drew Brees upright.
Well, you're right about that, Scott. But, you know, Jamon Bushrod got a lot of help from guys like Pierre Thomas and Reggie Bush, those chip blocks. And I talked to Reggie last week before he came down here to Miami. He said, you know what, we're going to employ every chip block that we can throw at them. But now with the status of Freeney up in the air, Bush says that plan won't change. They'll probably just, if Freeney's not playing, they'll switch to defensive ends. Expect Bushrod to still get plenty of help on that left end.
All right, Juan Kincaid in Davie, Florida. Stay right there. Much more with Juan later in the show. We would like to introduce now the voice of the Saints and Channel 4 Sports Director Jim Henderson. And, you know, you look at guys like Terrell Owens and you look at some guys like Jack Youngblood who played with a broken leg. Unless this boy just can't walk at all. Is there any way you see Dwight Freeney not playing in this football game?
I see him playing. I mean, it's the ultimate game, obviously. He's got 2 weeks to heal. As Juan mentioned, the word out of Indianapolis is that Dwight Freeney is a quick healer. He'll have 24-hour-a-day attention if he needs it, and he may. I expect to see him on the field.
You know, the rain forcing the Saints to do a little changing. It also forced the NFL to do a little changing today, or they announcing it today. Tomorrow, the big frenzy that is Media Day. They're moving it under the concourse, and that's going to be crazy. It's probably going to be a little more packed, a little more jammed in there, which, boy, is going to make it always interesting. You have a favorite story from any past media days?
Well, I mean, oftentimes they're very much the same. There's always somebody asking the question, what's the stupidest question you've heard on Media Day? And usually that is it. And then there's somebody saying, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? You'll find some scantily clad women, especially in South Florida. Sometimes some of the talk show hosts will send a little kid down to ask questions, which is always aggravating. And then you get players who pose as media members, which I think Chad Ochocinco is going to be doing this week here. Chad's going to be a member of the media, and that will be a distraction as well. But you're right, if it is going to be underneath the concourse, it's already hard to move enough when it's outside around the edges of the field. There'll be some short tempers. It'll make it a little bit more difficult. There'll be some microphones thrust in people's faces and people tangled up in cords. But every year is a little bit different, and I have to say it's probably calmed down a little bit since when I first started covering it. Not quite as outrageous as it has been.
I think some of the most outrageous stuff that you see there are some of the things that our friends, the print journalists, like to wear to these Media Day events. I don't know if they spend too much time at the shopping centers, but maybe the thrift stores.
Yeah, well, that's always a picture opportunity too, and I've taken advantage of it in the past.
Also, and as you start to adjust, you know, the thing that you need is a ticket into that to see that circus. Sometimes getting that ticket into the media events is a kind of an adventure in itself, you found out.
Well, you've got to get your credential first of all. Actually, your first priority this week in Miami is to see if you can get in Joe's Stone Crabs, and then after that, you got to get your credential to go to parties and cover football. So we were very early in our attempt to get our credential, and we got there before the rush occurred. All right, this is it. This is where it all begins. The fun is about to begin. See this? Media Center. I'm media. Here we go. Super Bowl 44, and I am ready to cover this. I'm ready to cover this.
Can I help you?
Yeah, can I get in here?
Do you have proper credentials?
Does this work?
Henderson?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that'll work. Come on in.
Thanks.
I'll get you your credential.
Thanks, Derek.
Enjoy the week.
Do we have anything else to do here? This it? That's it.
Good.
Perfect. Just coming in and out. Okay. Always err on the side of ignorance. I don't know. I wasn't supposed to be here? I'm sorry. I'll be leaving soon. It's worked for me for 31 years. Inside, upwards of 100 radio stations and networks will be broadcasting from here, among them Sirius XM and the original talent scout for the Dallas Cowboys, Gil Brandt.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great for y'all.
Thank you. It's fun. I listen to you all the time. I'm serious.
We have a good time.
Yeah, you do. Nice to meet you.
Good to see you.
It's the Godfather right here. The Godfather. Various sets are in the infancy of elaborate construction. After days of assemblage, one is already ornately complete. This is the spot. See this chair right here? Bobby Hebert. Yes, the Bobby Hebert will be sitting in this chair in just a couple of days. And Deke, well, he'll be over there somewhere. You don't want him too close to Bobby. And Bobby will probably still be wearing the dress, at least at night on South Beach. It's just my prediction. It's my only Super Bowl prediction, and I'm pretty sure it's going to come true. Bobby's bosom buddies and South Beach. Can one survive the other? Another question the week ahead will answer. And I've got to admit, I made a rookie mistake. I've been covering probably 30 of these things, but I made a rookie mistake. I got there before the hospitality room opened. Well, I'll never make that mistake again.
We were there with you. Obviously, you saw Juan Kincaid, and what you didn't show in the package was the throng of people that came up for your autograph, although they were like, are you Bill Capo? Are you Bill Capo?
I get that everywhere. I'm so sick of that.
All right. Stay with us. Our special Super Bowl preview edition rolls on after the break. We're live in Miami.
And you know their name, 'cause we're all getting ready for the big game.
Well, while the skies parted for the Saints' arrival today, they pretty much clammed up when the Colts arrived. The team touched down about 4:45 local time. It's the second time in 4 years Indianapolis has spent Super Bowl week in South Beach. This year, though, they'll actually be camped in Fort Lauderdale, 30 minutes from Miami. Welcome into Bayfront Park, just outside of the Biscayne Bay. He's Jim Henderson. Juan Kincaid is live in Davie, Florida. He'll join us in just a second. And as you look at these two teams, I think very comparable in the way they've made some personnel decisions. You look at guys like Austin Collie and Pierre Garçon for the Colts, comparable to guys like Pierre Thomas, Marcus Colston perhaps for the Saints. I think maybe the way though they go and evaluate the talent might be a little bit different, but the way they're able to find these diamonds in the rough, very similar.
Well, Bill Polian was the executive of the year in the NFL, and for good reason. You look at what they did, rookie head coach and Jim Caldwell. They lose Marvin Harrison, one of the great wide receivers of all time. They exist with low-round draft choices and free agents, and Bill Polian always has to think about, well, how do I manage the salary cap when Peyton Manning gets so much money of it? There's not an awful lot left over for other people. So they've done a terrific job, and that's why Bill Polian is the executive of the year.
And that's why the Colts usually always struggle in the preseason, too, because they just don't have a lot of money in those backups toward the end of the game. Juan Kincaid now joins us live from Davie, Florida, where the Saints had to really relocate their practice today. And Juan, you and I have talked about this before. I remember that draft class of 07, the year after 06, and boy, it was really maligned with guys like Robert Meacham and Jermon Bushrod. And then all of a sudden, these guys kind of came to, and they've helped push this Super Bowl run into the into the forefront.
You're right, Scott. 06, the Saints struck gold. Every move they made worked. And 07, we were just waiting around in 09 to see if this team was going to get any kind of production out of that group. And Sean Payton has always told us you have to be patient. You can't expect these guys to be the Marcus Colstons every year when they come out of the draft, especially the guys that are drafted late. But even with Robert Meacham, a guy that's picked in the first round, we were expecting him to pay dividends right away. It did not happen. But at the same time, what's happened over the last couple of years, the players have gotten their feet up on themselves. They've been in the system now and gotten a rhythm into the system a little bit. And you've gotten great production, especially from Robert Meacham, a kid that's just had a fantastic year for this football team. And now Bushrod manning the left side after they lose their starting left tackle, and he basically jumps over Zach Strief. So you got to be happy with what kind of production you're getting out of those players now, a couple years later.
Yeah, and don't forget about Usama Young there, too, providing depth on the backside of that secondary. Juan Kincaid live in Davie, Florida. Why don't you go get dry and get prepped up, because we got a busy day at Media Day tomorrow. Thanks a lot, Juan. All right, Jim. And as we continue, I guess, this pseudo roast of Jim Henderson now, I thought it was pretty funny that Bill Capo's out on a story today, runs into a guy that started his career when you started your career. And I don't know if it's creepy or not that he keeps a picture of Jim Henderson in his office. Here's Bill Capo with a look back at Jim Henderson's early days in television.
This is Bill Capo filling in on Fourth Down. We're at the National Hurricane Center's forecast office in Miami, Florida, just off the main floor. A guy who's known Jim Henderson for years. This is Dennis Felkin, the public relations head for the National Hurricane Center. Hey, Dennis.
Hey, Bill.
When did you meet Jimmy?
We worked together at the NBC affiliate in Atlanta, Georgia, WSB-TV. It was my first TV job, and I remember when Jim came on the air, this fresh-faced guy, very soft-spoken, well-versed, but incredibly soft-spoken. Want proof? See anybody you recognize?
That's Jim Henderson?
That's Jim Henderson. Don't you love the clothes? Aren't they great? And look at the hair. We all had hair. What happened?
All right, you got to give me the dirt on Henderson. When he was first starting out, what was he like?
A good guy to work with. You didn't know he was in the room, though. So soft-spoken.
Shy? Jim Henderson shy?
Jim Henderson shy, soft-spoken. It's like, who is this new guy on the set? Gee, you wonder, is he going to cut it in sports? I think he did.
Now, you were worried about the cut of his clothes back then. Have you seen how he dresses now?
No, but I've heard rumors.
Yeah, well, that picture is no surprise to his wife.
Okay.
And
I wonder if he still has it. I wonder if he still fits in it.
I don't think he fits in it anymore, but he might still have it. Knowing Jimmy,
that's scary.
He's probably got his first dollar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, it's good to wear on Halloween sometime.
Yeah, Jim, you never know where you're going to find somebody special at Super Bowl 44.
Yeah, soft-spoken. Jim's definitely soft-spoken when the check usually comes around at dinner, right?
My hand. I got fish hooks in my pockets. Actually, I have that jacket with me and plan to wear it on Sunday because of the holiday, Super Bowl Sunday.
Well, I look forward to seeing that. I'll be sure to wear my sunglasses. All right, stick around. We continue our 30-minute special live from Miami after the break.
We smell greatness.
4 years ago, Sean Payton interviewed with the Oakland Raiders and Green Bay Packers before the Saints finally convinced him to resurrect their franchise. We all know how that story has ended. Juan Kincaid tonight on how it began.
If you didn't know his story, Sean Payton would have you fooled too. Despite his early season success with the Saints, he's not a seasoned NFL head coach. His time on the job is now 68 games old. But he walks and talks and leads like a natural. Which takes us to where it all began for Payton, 30 miles west of Chicago in Naperville. At Naperville Central High School, a place that, like Payton, has really grown up in the past 25 years.
He was just sort of the ringleader of all of them as a sophomore, and that didn't change throughout his whole career there.
J.R. Bishop was Payton's high school football coach for 3 seasons.
As a junior, as I walked up and down the sidelines, Sean was always by my side, and I didn't direct him to do that. He was just there because he was in the game and so forth, and at different times during different games, he would have something to say. Sometimes I paid attention to him, sometimes I didn't.
As a player, Payton had time to develop, but as a transplant into Naperville's Maplebrook subdivision, he quickly developed friendships that have lasted a lifetime.
Once we brought lawnmowers up there, we tried to make a golf course out of that field.
Best friend and teammate Scott Zielinski says the calm and cool that you see in Payton now is not the same guy he grew up with.
Full of energy. He was just, we called him the kinetic man because he always wanted to be doing things and loved sports. That's all he did was sports.
Impatient in a good way, and again, I think eager to please would be more, accurate the way I look at it than impatient necessarily. He knew what he wanted to be, and I don't know if he was in a hurry to get there, but he was anxious to get there.
When Payton got to Naperville in 1977, sports occupied his time. From football to baseball, if it was in season, Sean was in uniform.
And he did all of them well. He actually, he played baseball, stopped playing baseball, and then went out senior year for baseball and made it again. So he was always a very good athlete. I think he stopped basketball to concentrate on football, but we did everything. We would sneak into gyms to play basketball constantly, and that was what our group was. We just loved to play sports.
And almost instantly, his following grew. Payton never saw himself as the leader of the pack, but it was never in question.
He always had the ideas, so to speak. He was kind of the idea man. Let's do this, and it's kind of hard to say no to Sean sometimes, just because he's eager to please and he's got that personality that we should do this. And the more he thought about it, I was like, well, yeah, maybe we should do this. So I think in that sense, he was the leader.
He was their leader. He was their leader walking down the hallway, and not because he necessarily wanted to be. He wasn't, I'm going to be the big man on campus. That was not the case with him. He was a leader because they respected his knowledge of the game.
And that knowledge was developed on the sideline next to Bishop.
And he was such a student of the game then that I really appreciated what he brought to the table for us.
Sean's former teammate said his #1 fault back then was that he was just too impatient, which is kind of ironic because Sean didn't just walk in to the starting job here at Naperville Central. He had to wait his turn. He didn't take one snap during his junior year, mainly because the head coach's son was the starting quarterback. So Sean's first time in the spotlight came in the first game of his senior season.
He certainly wanted to play, no question, but I think he wanted to learn too. And I think learning from Coach Bishop, I think he understood the game more. I think he looked at it more at a strategic level, trying to understand not only what the quarterback did, but really every position.
He worked really hard to accomplish what he did. And when I go back now and watch the old games, you get a much greater appreciation of
how hard he worked.
How hard he worked, and just the little things you know, it's not just passing, it's a lot of other things that go into it. We realize, you know, he was really good, you know, and it showed.
It showed when he finally got his chance, that senior season, 1981, and Payton led his high school team back to the state playoffs.
Our players very definitely believed in him, that as long as he was out there, that we had a chance.
Total confidence in him.
He probably was #1 when it came to thinking he could win. Whether it was anybody else out there or not, he thought he win, and I don't think he ever had any doubt that he would ever lose a game that he played.
But they would eventually lose in the quarterfinals, but by then, Payton had left his mark on the program and on his friends. Football was his passion, but his friends were, and continue to be, his life and his biggest fans. They were with him during the lean years, and Payton rewards them now that he's in the thick of realizing his lifelong dream.
His way of saying thanks to us is, come see the games. That means a lot to me, for people to come watch him.
I think that talks about the kind of person he is that, you know, even with all the accolades and whatever, Sean is still Sean.
I was going to say, that's what Shi says, that's just Sean, you know.
Still that deep, caring, kind individual that he always was, and I don't anticipate that'll ever change.
Welcome back live to Miami. Well, all this week on our special 30-minute Super Bowl previews, we'll unveil the top 5 plays of the 2009 season. Tonight, here's play number 5.
Play number 5 of our countdown goes back to week 4. The 3-0 Saints up against the 3-0 Jets. The bandwagon quickly filling up for the upstart New York team, while pundits were reluctantly kicking the tires on the Saints. Already, Darren Sharper had a 99-yard pick 6, but the turning point of the game and the loud announcement that this defense wasn't the same old came with 9 minutes to go in the first half. Backed up on the goal line, Jets rookie quarterback Mark Sanchez hit in the end zone and stripped by Will Smith. Remy Idell pounces on the football for the score and a 17-0 lead. The Saints bandwagon needed to make some room.
Don't forget, you can log on to WWLTV.com and tell us what you think. What are your top 5 plays? Then join us every night here at 6:30 as we unveil the rest of the top 5. For Jim Henderson and Juan Kincaid, I'm Scott Cody. We appreciate you watching. We'll see you tomorrow in Miami.
We wanted to get a workout in today. We felt that was important. I think they're overall, pretty good. No, I think it was pretty smooth. When you get the itinerary down and the players are adaptable, and it just involved us busing up here to practice. We knew going in this week that would be the rain plan, and I think the weather forecast for the balance of the week after tomorrow is pretty good. So these fields will dry up well. And it was good that we had the bubble to use today. Yeah, the league has a schedule for both teams in the event of rain, this provides you the ability to practice and get your work done. I wouldn't be able to comment on potential injury of someone on the other team. The focus for us is just getting a good week's work done, and I wouldn't want to speculate. Well, that'd be easy to acknowledge, right? Well, I think in the early stages, what's important is the message and the time spent with Mickey Loomis ownership in regards to their commitment level. And when when you take over and get a new job, more often than not, it's because, you know, they've had trouble in the past. And I think what's important is trying to quickly identify, you know, what's kept the team from being successful. And I've said this before, what's also important is being able to identify who is having success. And, you know, you've heard me talk about the Patriots and paying close attention in our industry to organizations or teams like New England, and really studying closely the reason they were successful. And I think it's pretty good business practice to do that. And, you know, I think, you know, so really you start with the team aspect of trying to get players that put the team ahead of their own accomplishments or their own itineraries. And, you know, that's easier said than done. But that being said, I think that's where we started in '06 and trying to build this the right way. And but to answer your question at the beginning, I think it really had a lot to do with the people in the interview process of feeling confident that there was a willingness to take the steps needed and the commitment needed to be successful. And you know, and you trust your gut that way, and you start working.
You're listening to Coach Sean Payton live in Florida at a Saints news conference.
Well, we had a group of players down here early. You know, the Pro Bowl players came down yesterday for you know, last night's game, and the league did a real good job of just working through the logistics of that, you know, and getting the players there. And, you know, it's unique in that they're arriving ahead of the team, and you know, you never lose track of the job you have. And, you know, for about a half an hour today, you know, those Pro Bowl players, I thought, earned some pretty good tips here with our players getting off the buses and handling the luggage, and they did a good job. So, you know, we're always one to steal a pretty good idea. I think Bill Walsh a long time ago had a pretty good idea, and we just kind of took it like one of his offensive plays and ran with it. Well, I think that it's a good question. I think it started with just the face-to-face interview. You know, people in all walks of life, you know, at times can hit rock bottom or maybe exhaust their opportunities. And I think that there's part of us that wants to make sure you give someone a second chance, but it starts with evaluating the sincerity of looking someone eye to eye, and you know, having a belief or having the same confidence in that person that you would want him to have in himself. And I think starting with the visit and laying out the structure for him, and you know, what we would expect, our expectation level, and to his credit, daily, you know, he lives that. And daily, he recognizes this opportunity. And, you know, when that happens, there's more of a reward or a gratification in what you do than the second-round pick that comes into the league. In other words, it's a good story. And you know, it gives you confidence in, you know, the human spirit and what someone can change in their life despite the mistakes they've made prior. And that's why it's, you know, it's easy to be proud of a guy like that and the way he's had to battle and fight. And I think it's a good message. Well, you know, he's an unselfish player. He's extremely committed to his line of work. You And what I mean by that, it's hard to, in a 15-minute news conference, talk about his work ethic and the way he prepares. So I think that for the fan, for the person that lives and breathes and eats, New Orleans Saint football, for them to have someone like that as the quarterback of their team, who's also very talented, a very good athlete and very successful. I think that they appreciate that and they respect that. So I think that there's a combination of character, toughness, hard work, athleticism, all those things that would draw somebody to a player like Drew Brees, and I think it's unique. Well, the one thing we were looking for was someone we felt that could still play. I think, it's one thing to say we want to have a mentor, and yet our jobs as coaches is to make sure we're providing that. So it started with the question: do we feel like we have a vision for the player in Mark Brunell? And we felt like his arm strength was still solid, delivery, and there's a confidence level about him in the huddle and in practice that is somewhat contagious, and I think that that's a good trait to have when you're someone that could be called upon at any time. So outside the evaluation process, then the other things, were things we felt real good about, and he has been someone that is a key figure on this team and has a key role. He still works and prepares, just like you would expect for any one of your players each week. I had to get over the fact he was left-handed, and there's some twists that go with that. But behind him, we've got a young guy named Chase Daniel who's intriguing and done some good things, and so I think we've got a pretty good mixture of some experience as well as youth, but it came down to skill set first in regards to Mark. And we looked closely at it, and we were able to get him signed. And I think he's provided leadership in that regard, even as the two. Oh, I mean, next year seems like 5 years from now. Oh, I don't, listen, I paid close attention to what was said, and I think that, I said this last week, given the nature of Super Bowl week, I think one of the first things you do defensively is try to hurry the quarterback or pressure the quarterback or disrupt the timing of the quarterback. So I think it's fairly common sense with defensive football, and looking at it, I don't really pay much attention to that, no. No, I mean, I think that, listen, I think anymore the regular season provides that as well as the Super Bowl. In other words, the weekly media availability, the weekly press conferences, divisional round, NFC championship, AFC championship round, Super Bowl. It's covered more. This game's covered more than ever before. So, I think the players and coaches understand, how to conduct themselves and to be humble, and certainly when you look at a team like Indianapolis who are getting ready to play, we've got all the respect in the world for what they've accomplished. And as the season was unfolding, this is a team, along with ourselves, that really hadn't lost a game. And, each week, whether they fell behind and came back and won, or whether they jumped out to a lead and won, you really measure the body of work and you look at what they've accomplished, and it's been rare. It's unique, and it's definitely provides a great challenge for us this weekend. Well, I think each year it kind of takes on a shape of its own based on your personnel. You know, if you go back in 06, you know, we had players, Terrence Copper and Jamal Jones. There were receivers that you wouldn't even be able to pull up right now. But I think each year, based on what you're seeing in the off season and training camp, I think you evolve with your personnel. And you, I think as important as anything, have flexibility as a coach to really look at who you have and you know, who gives you the best chance to move the football. And so there, you know, Deuce played extremely well in 2006, and you know, I thought we played a pretty good brand of complementary football offensively and defensively and had success. And then in 07 and 08 we weren't as successful, and this year we found more balance in the running game. We're doing a better job taking the ball away on defense. I think it's just important to pay attention to the parts, you know, and a guy like Robert Meacham's development after he was selected and his emergence. Those are all things. Some guys it happens quicker too, and other guys maybe it takes a little bit more time, but I do think you want to have some flexibility in regards to what you're asking these guys to do based on who's doing it. You know, I don't know that that's real significant. I do think it's fair to say that you know, having a full season of tape study and being able to reference formations, being able to reference, you know, how they defended or played offense against certain teams, you know, all that goes into, you know, a good game plan. But the common opponent aspect of it, I don't know that that's as important. You know, in other words, I think most importantly is looking closely at the cut-ups. And, you know, I think when teams get to this point in time, all of us, you know, have tendencies and things that you do well. And just because, you know, you're now at this stage or at this portion of the season, you know, you know, I think the mistake sometimes is trying to change too much. You know, there's a reason you've had success, and I think it's important in this type of atmosphere you give your players the things that they do well and the things they're able to draw on, you know, in a game like this.
You are listening to Coach Sean Payton of the New Orleans Saints live from Florida.
Yes,
the Saints news conference continues live in Florida. Here's Drew Brees.
Well, it didn't go that far. It was really just the appearance of us, you know, kind of standing, you know, on the curb, waiting, you know, ready to serve. I mean, they still will do a lot of the same things. You know, it's obviously he is a tremendous player and one of the best, if not the best, pass rusher in this league. As is the guy on the other side, you know, Mathis. So, you know, really I think their style is one that they've played, or their scheme is one they've played for a long time. You know, they're doing a little bit more pressure now than they have in the past, but still it's very much the same philosophy of, you know, we're going to get after you with our front four. We're going to make you throw it underneath. You know, we're not going to give up big plays. We're going to do a great job of, you know, rallying and tackling. I mean, every guy on that defense is a good tackler, and they know how to strip and get the ball out. You know, that's something they've made a living on.
You mentioned learning your lesson against DeMarcus Ware, not expecting to play what you guys be able to.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the fact is it's the Super Bowl, and I know any player would do as much as they could to get on that field. And obviously he's a competitor and a guy that, you know, we are expecting him to play. And, you know, if he doesn't, he doesn't. But certainly I feel like, you know, they're coming into this game with all their ammo.
Drew, obviously you reached different milestones during the course of the year. Was there significance in the New England win, maybe in dealing with a lot of pressure and a lot of hype there?
Well, you know, I'd probably draw the similarity from the type of organization we were playing then and the type of organization we're playing now. One that is, you know, really a model organization. You know, the Colts have won 12 or more games in the last 7 straight seasons. They won a Super Bowl just a few years ago. They're a perennial playoff contender, championship contender. that has a great quarterback, great head coach, management, a bunch of very talented players, guys that they know how to win. They know what it takes to win, and they play very disciplined football. And so, anytime you go up against an organization like that, a team like that, you just understand that your mistakes all of a sudden get magnified. You need to be that much more disciplined with what you're doing, and execution becomes critical.
Can you talk a little bit about your relationship with Mark Brunell and how that's evolved? What were your expectations of how much you would lean on him, given the fact that he's had more time to lean than you?
Well, Mark's been awesome. Mark Brunell has been tremendous for me, as a mentor, as a guy who's played a lot of football at a very high level. You're talking about a guy who's, been to 3 Pro Bowls, led those teams in Jacksonville to 2 AFC Championship games. I mean, he's played in a ton of big games, big atmospheres, and he's a true professional. And so there's certainly a lot of things I've been able to gain from him over the last few years.
Let's talk about the kind of year that Peyton had, and what kind of pressure that puts on you in a game like this, trying to keep up with him because they have a very high-scoring offense.
Well, see, that's exactly, the trap that I'm not going to, try to fall into, which is, trying to keep up with Peyton. I know that Peyton is going to make his plays, and he's going to be Peyton, and that just means that I need to be me. Certainly this is a game that very well could be, hey, back and forth, or one team, gets out to a lead, and then all of a sudden the other team closes the gap. I mean, I think we've both shown the ability to, come back from big deficits. The game is always within reach, no matter what the situation. And it's me and my offense against their defense, and vice versa. And so certainly I have a lot of respect for Peyton and what he's been able to accomplish and what their team's been able to accomplish, but it's not me against Peyton Manning.
Drew, you've seen firsthand the last several years the city of New Orleans pick up the pieces after the hurricane. I'm sensing that this potential championship is different from that city than the other cities based on what they've gone through. From your perspective, what's it like to know that so many people, because they've been through so much, are looking at this team as an extra special entity?
Yeah, well, not only the people in New Orleans, but I think around the country. I mean, because you do understand how much it means to that community and what they've been through. And our success as a team here over the last 4 years, but especially this year, has been tremendous just in regards to, giving so many of the members of that community hope and lifting their spirits. There's still a lot of work to be done there in regards to the rebuilding and the recovery post-Katrina. And, there's still a lot of people in some pretty dire straits. So for us to be able to have the success we're having, it does so much for that community as far as bringing everyone together. And, it's just, there's a bond that we have, with our fans, between our organization, our team, and our fans that's truly special. And, this has been obviously a storybook season for all of us. The 13-0 start, a lot of firsts. First time to host a NFC Championship game, first Super Bowl appearance in the 42-year history of the organization. So, we have a lot to play for, and we don't look at it as extra pressure. We look at it as a sense of responsibility, and we really gain strength from our fans, from the Who Dat Nation, from the people of New Orleans, just knowing that, their spirit's with us.
What does it say about, could you describe how inconvenient or frustrating it was to get here, and the first thing you do is get dressed in Miami and get ready to go to practice and find out the field's too wet and have to bus all the way up here and do that?
Hey, it is what it is. Weather the storm. We know how to do that. This is something that we wanted to do today. We got here early for a reason. Our team jumped right on the buses, went to the practice field. Got a good sweat in, got a good workout in, and I think it's just really setting the tone for us and our mindset for this week. It's all business.
What is it about Coach you think that he came up with the bellhop thing? It seems like indicative of his ability to monitor the pulse of the team and know when to be light and when to be fired up.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, I think you could very easily get to this week and all of a sudden, want to put too much pressure on yourself, or, feel the pressure of the hype and the media and everything else. But I think that's one of Sean's great strengths, is the ability to constantly have his finger on the pulse of the team and know, hey, when it's time to work, when it's time to, joke and have a good time. And, obviously when the guys pulled up, he thought that would be, a good way to, welcome everybody in, and it was.
How ironic is it that you're in this building today? You've talked before about how the Dolphins were your other top team in free agency. How close did that come to happening?
I mean, it's kind of interesting, I guess. The the bubble wasn't built yet, but it was under construction. So it's not like I stepped foot in there, but just kind of, you know, walking around the facility in the weight room, obviously to get in here, you know, brought back the memories of that free agency period back in 2006, you know, which was really a defining moment in my career and probably my life, just the way that things worked out, and obviously I'm where I belong.
Drew, why do you so embrace your role as
Why do you so embrace your role as a leader of the team and being supportive of the community? Because you've done it with the Saints, you've also done it with Wesley. Why do you embrace that role so much?
Well, you know, I know that I've been blessed with a lot of opportunities in my life. The opportunity to, you know, go to a great university, Purdue University, play in the Big Ten, the opportunity I had out in San Diego, the opportunity that I've had here in New Orleans, so many great coaches and mentors around me, and I just feel like, you know, it's a big responsibility for me. I mean, I feel like I've been given a platform to really make a difference in a lot of people's lives, especially those that are less fortunate and those that, you know, might not have the opportunities otherwise. And so I've embraced that community of New Orleans just because it is a special place, and they've embraced me and my wife in a way that, you know, I can't even describe. And there's nothing more that I want for them than a championship.
Drew, can you talk about the importance of the back shoulder throw? Is that something that you kind of developed as an art, or any quarterback needs that in their arsenal?
Well, you know, really what it is it's pretty much, it's a simple philosophy. It's throw it to our guy away from their guy, you know, and so just because your guy is running right next to one of their guys doesn't mean that there is a place where you can throw that ball where only your guy can get it. And so that's the point of the back shoulder throw, or any throw where, hey, maybe it looks like a really low throw or a really high throw, but you're taking your receiver and kind of using it to their strength, where you can throw that ball, where you know they can get it and nobody else can. Absolutely. I mean, that takes time. I mean, that's chemistry. That's working at it. That's, you know, and now the fact that Marcus Colston and I have had 4 years together, same with Devery Henderson, Meacham's in his 3rd year, Lance Moore in his 3rd year, you know, all these guys that, you know, even Shockey, the difference from last year to this year, you know, so many of those guys where you just build that rapport over time.
Really good flexibility and options.
No, absolutely. I mean, we have an arsenal. We've got a lot of guys that can do a lot of great things, great athletes, and what we try to do within our offense is put everybody in a position to succeed according to their strengths.
One of the questions, since you're back here in the Dolphins, one of the stories around here, Nick Saban talked, he visited you at 12-1 or called you at 12-1 free agency. Is that true?
He probably called me before that, but no. Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, you know, I came here. I went to New Orleans. Came to Miami as free agent, you know, possibilities. I had great visits at both places. I have a lot of respect for both organizations, but in the end, I felt like New Orleans was my calling. That's where I belonged, not only to help rebuild that organization and get it back on the right track, but also to help rebuild a community and a region, and you know, to do something special. Kevin.
You said like 1,000 times in that period in 06 that everything happens for a reason. Is this what you had in mind? I think it was more than that. Like, can you talk about your time then and now, the reason?
You were listening to all those things I was telling you back in those days, huh?
You said it a few times.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I do believe everything happens for a reason. And, you know, despite the fact that, you know, that injury is what caused me to leave San Diego, and at the time, you know, I was picturing myself as being the San Diego Chargers quarterback for my entire career. You know, that was my dream. That was my goal at the time. But so for that to be kind of taken away, and all of a sudden you're in limbo, and, you know, not only, hey, what other team am I going to go to, but am I ever going to be able to play at the level that, you know I can play at ever again because of this serious shoulder injury. But God puts you in a position for a reason, and it goes way beyond football, I think.
When I covered you, it was like a series of things that people told me.
Well, I think you're always driven by the opportunity to be the best, and I am blessed to be able to play in this league. I mean, how many people would only dream to be able to play quarterback in the NFL, and then to take it one step further and have the opportunity to play for a Super Bowl championship, you know, a world championship, especially for a city like New Orleans and an organization like the New Orleans Saints, and for a coach like Sean Payton. a general manager like Mickey Loomis and an owner like Tom Benson, who really believed in me when nobody else did. You know, they had as much confidence in me as I did in myself, and that's meant the world to me. And so I want to win it for them, just like I want to win it for all my teammates in my city. What was I talking to Peyton about at Pro Bowl? Just, you know, I've known Peyton for a long time, since I was at Purdue and he was in Indy. I used to go to games. I went to a few games when I was at Purdue as a student, and you know, I think he was always, you know, very good to me when I was a college quarterback. And to think that here we are 10 years later, and it's gone by fast. You know, we'd be playing in a Super Bowl against one another, at least our teams. It's you know, pretty crazy how things work out.
2 more questions.
Yes. Go ahead.
You've been off for 2 weeks. What have you been doing to stay focused?
Well, you know, I think from the time that we won the NFC Championship, it was, you know, kind of 24 hours of, you know, celebrating a little bit, and then also, you know, starting to think about, you know, what the plans were going to be like for the next 2 weeks, and really kind of coming up with a plan and a routine and a process for, you know, last week and this week. Just understanding the, you know, the hype and the media and the potential distractions and all those things, and just trying to kind of manage those things. I talked to a lot of my mentors. I talked to a lot of former quarterbacks that had been at this game before, and just got a gauge for, you know, how I wanted to handle this week so that I could get all my preparation in and be as ready to play and win this game as I could.
Reggie Bush has had some bumps in the road in the last couple of years. You get the impression that he's elevated to a sports level. Is he at the highest you've seen him play? Is this a special time for him?
I mean, I think the sky's the limit for Reggie Bush. I think he can continue to get a lot better and continue to, you know, just like any young running back in this league, you know, there's that time period there, that learning curve where you're just continuing to develop and continue to learn how to be a pro and kind of hone in on your skills. And obviously he's one of the most talented players in the NFL. And, you know, but to see him in that Arizona game, have the game that, you know, was very complete, you know, probably, you know, one of the most impressive performances I've seen from him since he's been here. You know, I think he just needs to continue to build upon that, continue to fulfill his role, and, you know, he can really help us win if he does that. Thanks.
Beach is darker sand than Gulf Coast beaches, but azure surf splashes on the shore. Next to the sand is the Nikki Beach Restaurant doing a brisk business, and that's where we meet Lisa Hollister of New Orleans, a Bonneville High School and UNO alum who is now living in Miami.
Well, after Hurricane Katrina, I was in Houston for a while, and then I decided I wanted to spread my wings, and I wound up in Miami. So
How cool is it to live in Miami Beach?
It's amazing. I absolutely love it. And I'm excited for the New Orleans fans to get here later on this week.
Lisa is as excited as any Saints fan, maybe more. She says she spent 4 years as a Saints-sation cheering on the team.
It's amazing. I'm still in shock. I think we're all still in shock. When we see them all show up on Wednesday or Thursday, then we'll believe it's really true.
We're so thrilled to have the Saints participate in our record 10th Super Bowl, because really you have to feel good. It's a feel-good story, and Miami embraces the underdog.
Kevin Kaufman of Miami's Super Bowl host committee says Saints fans making the pilgrimage here. So when they win Sunday, what will you be doing?
I don't know. Thanking my lucky stars.
With photographer Brian Lucas, I'm Bill Capo, Channel 4 Eyewitness News in Miami with the Saints at Super Bowl 44.
And certainly a little different than having it all in New Orleans. We're in Miami, but a lot of this stuff is 20-some miles up the road in Fort Lauderdale, so it's kind of split.
Leaders, a representative from each of the 32 teams was down here representing their club. Our Fletcher Mackle caught up with one of the Saints-sations.
Joined now with Saint-sation Amanda, the only member of the Saint-sations to dance in the Pro Bowl. First, talk about the Pro Bowl, and second, having your whole team here for the Super Bowl. I guess a dream come true.
It absolutely is a dream come true, and to represent the Saints organization is such an honor. We're having a great time here at Pro Bowl. I've gotten to know 25 other girls from other NFL teams. It's really exciting. I get to spend a whole other week here and cheer on the Saints in the Super Bowl.
And now you don't just have the girls from other teams here, but this week you're going to have your team here. What does it mean for your whole team to be here at a spectacle like this on the biggest stage there is to dance at? that?
It means so much to us. We're so excited. It's the first time for the Saints to make it to the Super Bowl, and we're just so honored to be able to cheer them on.
Is there extra pressure to make sure everything's perfect, given the fact that, oh, I don't know, a few billion people are going to see this worldwide, and you all will be part of the television broadcast, and make sure that you look perfect and do your routines perfectly?
Oh yeah, no pressure at all. They've been in rehearsal all week, so there's definitely pressure on me because I have to play catch up once they get here.
Is it going to be you all, are you all going to have a chance to have a little fun, or is it going to be somewhat of a work trip for you all too?
I'm sure we'll have fun no matter what. We'll make it fun.
Can you just talk to the people back at home and tell them what your experience has been like so far? You know, I guess the people, how they've treated you, and I guess seeing celebrities and stars and things like that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's really surreal being here, and everyone's been so hospitable. Miami has rolled out the red carpet for us, and the Who Dat Nation will be arriving shortly, so it's exciting.
All right, Amanda, thank you so very much. Good luck this week. No problem. Amanda, the only sensation on the Pro Bowl dance team, and then she'll join the sensations here to cheer on Super Sunday. Back to you.
And speaking of Super Sunday,